All right, welcome everyone to the Fantasy Engineers podcast. I'm Tyler, and I'm joined by my good friend and fantasy league rival Dotun. We're here to discuss fantasy basketball points leagues. The reason we really wanted to make a podcast about points leagues because we went out there trying to do research for our own points leagues, and we couldn't find anything. And we talk enough about fantasy basketball all the time. We kind of just thought, why not make our own? So say hello, Dotun.
What's up, everybody? Yep, as you heard, we're fantasy rivals, so what better way to, go with our rivalry than make an actual podcast? So let's get to it.
Yeah, let's get to it. So today, in our first episode, we're going to be starting off with a mock draft. We are going to be using the Sleeper platform just because it makes it very simple for us to do a mock draft to set it up. We can mock draft together with computers. So we're doing that. We got a points league set up. We're going to go with a roster setup of point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center, a guard, forward, and then two utility spots. So this is similar to the ESPN standard points league setup. The reason we think people will start enjoying this points league setup is it's like doing DFS, but in competitive leagues with your friends. So you get that same satisfaction from the DFS watching your points pile up every night and not have to picking guys based off of which categories you need later in the draft. It's really nice when you get down later in the draft and you see one of your favorite players, someone you love watching, and you don't have to say, darn, they don't fit the categories that I need because they're going to get points. And so you can draft them. It gives you a little bit of freedom.
And along with that, like you said, it's also really user friendly. We play normal fantasy with a lot of players who aren't that in tune with fantasy as much as we are. So it makes it easier for them to stay involved, stay focused when it's just having to deal with points, and not a whole bunch of different categories.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a really, because I think fantasy basketball, if I had to guess, would probably be the least well known out of probably the big three: baseball, basketball, football. And so if you want to get your friends into a fantasy league with you, fantasy basketball league, get someone who's not really that much into the NBA into it. Points league's the easiest way to do it. They don't have to be thinking about categories they weren't keeping up with to begin with. They just get to draft the names. They can come in. Everybody comes in. They know, oh, there's Giannis, there's Luka, there's Jokic. Yeah, I know those guys. I can draft them. They're going to get points. So it's a fun way to go about it. Anything else you wanted to add about points leagues?
No,
Why we're doing it this way?
no, I think you covered just about all of it. But I mean, shoot, enough talking. They didn't. People aren't coming here to hear us talk. So let's
Yeah.
let's get into the
All
juice.
right. So we've got a 10-team league set up here. I know a lot of people do 12, some people do 8. We really like 10. It's a good sweet spot to where you feel like you get some stars on your team that it's fun to watch. The first 3 rounds are usually guys big names. Datun is going to be drafting out of the 4 spot, so he's going to be telling you what to do, what to look for at the front half of the draft. Maybe see that 4 spot is really a pivotal spot, I'd say, this year. I feel like there's a big 3, and you might agree with me in fantasy basketball. And that 4 spot is really where you have to make your first decision, usually.
Yep, I definitely agree. I think this year we kind of know it's unanimous who should be going in around the top three spots. I think there's 3, 4 guys who can go in that top three. So it'll be interesting to see, who the computer takes in the top three, and I'll have basically who's left to choose from there. So
And I myself will be choosing out of the 9 spot. I'll be picking towards the end. This is actually the spot I drafted in our actual league that we just drafted last night, or I'm sorry, this is Tuesday now, so 2 nights ago. So this is towards the end of the draft. I'm going to have 2 back-to-back picks pretty close to each other, with one team sniping my picks in between. In our actual league, I was 9, Datun was 10, so me and him were fighting over players the whole draft. We
yeah,
stole a number of players from each other, and so we both had the kind of feel of what drafting from the end of the drafted spot is like. So hopefully we'll have enough perspective on both halves of this draft. So all right, I'm about to kick it off, and we'll see. Computers are going to be picking the rest of the teams, and here we go.
let's do it. Alrighty. Okay. And this is exactly the order I would expect it to go in. Jokic went first, followed by Giannis, followed by Luca. So now I'm up. So let's see. I honestly think there's 2 options. I would look to go James or Steph Curry here. Those would be my main two. mainly because James Harden with the whole Kyrie news. I think he takes a huge step forward this year. He's a fantasy monster. Steph Curry with no Klay Thompson still showed he has MVP status. So, um, my choice here would have to be James Harden.
James Harden's a good one, and like you just mentioned, I mean, we didn't really cover a lot of news coming in. We just wanted to get into this draft. It's way more fun to draft. Um, but with the news we just heard, I think it was today, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Officially today that
Yep.
Kyrie, the Nets will not be letting him participate at all until he's full participant, meaning until he's vaccinated. That's a big deal because that pretty much means James Harden and Kevin Durant should be the two guys. You know, they're not sharing the court with another superstar until Kyrie comes back.
Yep.
And one of the things you like about Kyrie, for the good and the bad, he's very committed to his beliefs, his cause. So but that also means there's a good chance that, you know, he maybe doesn't get vaccinated at all. He's taken this stance. He doesn't like to bend when other people tell him how to how to live his life. That's good things for him. It does bad things for him. But that's who he is, and so that could seriously affect him. There's a good chance he doesn't end up playing the season, making James Harden a solid pick there at 4. So right after him, after Dotun took Harden there at 4, the next person he was talking about, Steph Curry, went at 5. Anthony Davis went here at 6. You think that's a little high this year based off what we saw last year?
I definitely think it's a reach. You know, me, I'm biased. I'm a Lakers fan, but even as a Lakers fan, I think it's a reach. I think Anthony Davis was very underwhelming last year, so I would expect him to, kind of have a revenge season. He knows what people said about him. He wants to prove to himself that he is, indeed a top 10 fantasy player and just a player in general. Last year I think he projected to go in the top 10. He finished outside the 20. I think it was in the 30s range.
Yeah, it was rough.
So yeah, so I think it can play in his favor. I would have, I think there was better options with, Tatum, you know, 80 there. I don't see a problem with it, but I definitely would have looked somewhere else.
Yeah, just the Lakers last year started to see a little bit more load management. They struggled, didn't they got bounced in the first round of the playoffs. It seemed like they were a little exhausted. Now, to be fair, last season was the least uh, rest between seasons. Like that was the shortest off season. The Lakers went all the way in the season before. So, you know, them and the Heat had the worst off seasons in NBA history. So, I mean, that could play a part. I wouldn't look into it too much. I would feel more comfortable with Anthony Davis in the second round. But like you said, he has that potential. Damian Lillard goes at 7, LeBron James at 8, and I'm sitting here at 9. And I think the player that has fallen to me at 9 is a steal. The player sitting here at the top of my board is Karl Anthony Towns. Now I know he's had a lot of injury history. Um, their team is always doing terrible, so it always just feels like if they were competitive, he would be playing, you know, more games. They wouldn't be so careful with him. He would be an absolute stud. I think he has the categories, the assists, the rebounds, the blocks to compete for that number 1 overall spot. He'll still I feel more comfortable saying top 5, but I think he has, so I don't see why he would be left here for me. So I easily take Karl Anthony Towns.
I did, and I have to agree. Cat's getting to that point now. You hear fans, you hear analysts talking. Cat's getting to the point is it a make or break. People they mentioned that Cat hasn't had a team. They've made all these excuses, but now it's at the point. He got everyone he wants on his team now. Yet they're still not winning. They're not even making the playoffs at that. So
That's
Cat's
true.
he's gonna have to now put the team on his back and really show the league that hey, I'm Coffee Towns and I'm the real deal. So I definitely think Cat at 9 is a steal. I mean, I
Oh yeah.
think he's easily top 5.
If I'm
Um,
starting my team, my draft at 9, and I get to pick another stud now, Karl Anthony Towns, like I'm so excited. I expect Karl Anthony Towns. I thought you were going to potentially bring him up for in the mix at your 4 spot. I agree with your James Harden pick though,
mhm,
but for me at 9, Karl Anthony Towns, no question. And
for
so
sure.
then after me goes Trey Young and Jason Tatum. Tatum is actually the guy I wanted in our league because Towns was already gone. I wanted Tatum at the 9 spot. He was stolen from me a spot earlier. The reason I like him, he's young. The team is built around him. He's getting better every single year. He can score. He can rebound. He showed even this preseason a little bit more willingness to distribute the ball. You just every year you have to think he keeps getting better. He was clearly a second round player last year. I think he has a solid chance and a very very high floor to make it in the first round. Which
Definitely
now
agree. Definitely.
and so now the guy sitting up here is the one I want as well. My next pick is going to be Kevin Durant for the exact reasons you said about James Harden. Now, I know Kevin Durant has some injury concerns, but how are you going to not take potentially the best scorer in the entire league who just lost one of the superstars on his team, who is on a team that they built for a championship in the second round? So starting off my team, Cat, Durant, I love it.
Great start, great start. And I've talked to you a lot. So they have Durant listed as a small forward, power forward. So he'll cover both those positions for you. And
Right.
one of the biggest things for me coming to this draft, I think the weakest positions are forward and center. So you covering that early, I mean, that's just beneficial. I think guards can be found extremely easily later in the draft. That's just my opinion. You can find a guard who, it might not give you 20, 30 points, but he might give you 10 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. So I think guards are fairly easy to find, so I think you did a great job starting off. Then the team 8 took Booker. Okay, kind of
Interesting.
again, we are on the sleeper app, so the rankings are a bit different than on ESPN and Yahoo. They have, like, for example, they have Sabonis ranked at 25, Zion's ranked at 30. So I mean, we'll kind of take some things with a grain of salt, but yeah, Booker in a typical league would be taken at 13. That's a little bit too high, or pick 12, a little bit too high. Followed by Beal. I think Beal in ESPN leagues is ranked at 6. So
Yeah.
Beal there, honestly, not a bad pick.
No, and I've actually seen Beal in some ESPN mock drafts I've taken. People are not sure. He's one of those guys that unfortunately, as a fantasy manager, he's not vaccinated as well. He says the decision is personal,
Mhm,
and so it doesn't sound like he plans on getting the vaccine, which is
mhm.
his decision.
Yep,
Washington, D.C. does not have the mandates like New York and California, but he is at risk, and anytime he travels to one of those places, he can't play. And then the league does have stricter policies that if he gets exposed, he has to quarantine, not just test positive. If he gets exposed, he has to quarantine. So who knows how many times throughout a year that results in losing a player for a game or two or a week. Those are things that can be frustrating, but Beal without Russ, probably worth the upside pick there.
for sure, for sure. Um, Next pick comes up to be Joel Embiid. Really great pick in my opinion. Joel Embiid. Now that we've had news that Simmons did, come get his COVID shot or COVID test last night. So it seems like they are making plans for Simmons to return. But even still, with Ben Simmons, Embiid was still a top 5 player last year, barring injury and everything. So I think Embiid there is an absolute steal. Followed by Bam Adebayo. Ben Adebayo there, to me, personally, I think it's a little bit of a reach. I think, there might have been a few better options, within Zion or maybe even Sabonis, but still think it's a good pick. Bam, Miami's a playoff contender. Just added Kyle Lowry, a real big assist guy, so I think it works out in his favor. So it'll be interesting to see what Bam does this year.
Yeah, and like you said, that person I think is criminally underranked, and I took him. So in our draft at 12, and ESPN had him ranked at 20, was Sabonis. I took Domantas Sabonis at 12. I don't know why people can't seem to believe that he has the potential to be a first round player. He was putting
Mm,
up first round numbers a lot last season. He could go on stretches where he just has an unstoppable motor, loves to get rebounds, loves to get shots. Rick Carlisle came in and said, please start shooting more threes and making more threes. Now, the only thing is they could, if Carlisle brings in an offense that takes the ball out of his hands some more, it would hurt. But I don't see there's any way Sabonis goes past a middle of the second round value. But anyways,
definitely.
you're up here at pick 7 of the second round.
Yeah, so pick 7. So yeah, like you said, Sabonis here is just about makes sense, right? You got Sabonis, you have Zion Williamson. Then another option you have this year, who's a guy who's been, every year just continuing to go up, is Darren Fox. Darren Fox in points league is immensely good. I
Hmm.
really like him. Every year seems to just continue to get better. Still young. Um, he's been suffering from injury the past couple of years, but it might also contribute to the Kings not being that good of a team. And then my other option here that's really, interesting pick is Paul George. Paul George. Kawhi, I think, is out so far. I think they said February, with a good chance it might be for the whole season.
Right.
So that just opens the team up to Paul George. He's the only other superstar. They have some young guys, building up. But as far as superstars, Paul George is the only other one. But I think for me, think Sabonis makes the most sense. Last year he performed in the top 10. I know they got a new coach in Rick Carlisle, but even still, Sabonis there is just absolute steal.
And he's in one of those positions, power forward, where you feel like the depth is not great. So you get someone to lock in at that position where you worried later on in the draft may not be the best.
Yep, exactly. So next up we had Jimmy Butler, Paul George, and Donovan Mitchell. What do you think about those three?
I I can understand him. Jimmy Butler, he had a great stretch last year. Um, but the Heat are one of those teams that can kind of frustrate you with all of a sudden guys are sitting out and you're not quite sure what's going on. It happens every now and then. I hate to draft based off of that. He looked great as a distributor last year, but then they brought in Kyle Lowry. To me, I feel more comfortable with him in the third round. Uh, he could easily. He's one of those. He's the go-to guy, though. I mean, he's still the man. So at the end of the game, you feel comfortable that he's still going to get points. You hate it when you're watching a team at the end of the game and your guy's the guy they're not going to for buckets. You're going to for plays.
Yep,
That's and also he's a good source of steals and blocks usually. And in a points league, the hustle stats I like to call them are rewarded greatly. Our league personally does 2 points per steal or assist. I mean, 2 points per steal or block. The ESPN standard leagues I think does four, or at least some points leagues do four per, which is so. I mean, you're getting a huge amount of points from steals and blocks. So maybe that's what they're thinking there.
yep. Very true, very true. Then, of course, we had Paul George go at 19, and then Donovan Mitchell wraps it up at 20. Weirdly, we see Kawhi Leonard ended up going at
Yeah,
23.
I don't know about this. I think
Yeah,
either sleepers not updating their ranking on this guy, or maybe some people are still taking him because they have a couple IR spots
yeah, it's a
and they're hoping that
speculation.
this will win you your championship. I guess if you plan on making it that far, like, hey, I'll just stick him on. If you have to have multiple IR spots, in my opinion, to draft Kawhi Leonard
Yeah,
anywhere, let alone early.
exactly. I definitely agree. Kawhi Leonard there. I think it's definitely a bit too early. Kawhi Leonard is in a worse situation to me than Kyrie Irving at this point, right? And I don't think
Oh
Kyrie Irving
yeah,
should be drafted anywhere. I see he's next up on our average draft pick at 21. So according to Sleeper, he should have been drafted by now as far as average, but uh, he should definitely be slated more towards the eighth, ninth round. But a surprising person that's still available to me. One, Darren Fox, and two, Zion Williamson.
oh
I know
yeah.
Zion last year struggled with his first overall injury. Now he's having a foot injury as well. So maybe that's one of the reasons he's slotted down.
And
But
honestly, at this point, in the third round, this is where you decide. You either take a guy with immense upside who wins the league, or you go safe and you try to, find steals at the end of the draft. But Zion, if you take Zion in the third round, I know his foot injury could be a little scary. They haven't really talked about much when he's coming back. They've really been kind of hazy, and they've always been like that with him. But he's a potential early second round kind of player. And so you could start off a draft with three guys if he comes back healthy, if they don't sit him out, who could really be a solid start to your draft.
definitely agree. Yeah, my pick would have to be Zion. 24, can't beat that.
I don't blame you at all there. And let's see. Okay, well, like you said, they have, and I know that the way that Sleeper does their points league is, you get the best score
Hmm.
from everybody's from like the one single game that was their best game over the week that counts to your score.
Hmm.
So you're trying to pick guys I think who have the best home run potential. So that's why you see guys like Shai Gilgeous Alexander, DeAndre Ayton. I mean, these are all guys who should have probably one game in the week where they just blow up, and you get to use that. But at this point, I now have a center. I have a small forward, power forward, and Kevin Durant. So I have a little bit more flexibility
Yep.
into where I want to go. I think the guy I'm going with though is someone you already mentioned. I don't think Darren Fox should make it past the third round, and they have him going into the fourth round. I have my options
Absolutely
with
absurd.
Brandon Ingram. I personally am a huge Memphis fan. You know that. Dotun
Hmm.
was a huge Lakers fan. We'll go ahead and throw those out there so y'all know that. So John Morant's sitting there looking at me. Personally, I am dying to pick John Morant, but and he showed a lot of potential in the preseason, but I've learned in the past to not take too much stock out of the preseason. It's a long season.
Yep.
And Darren Fox, like you said, is getting better and better every year. His steals, his assists, scoring. I mean, like he's just unstoppable. I love Darren Fox here, so I'm going to take Darren Fox as my
Great
third round
pick.
pick.
Great pick.
And then right after me goes Porzingis and Ben Simmons. And Ben Simmons here, I think you actually took Ben Simmons at that exact spot
That
in our
exact
draft.
spot. That exact spot. I have high hopes for Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, he's 25. He's a top 5 defensive player. You talked about how important points are for steals and blocks. I think Ben Simmons provides both of those.
Right.
He's a triple double threat on any night, and then he's a 3-time All Star now. I mean, he's continually gotten better. I think he had a 4-week bad stint that a lot of people kind of took way out of control, especially
Yeah.
the Philadelphia fans. So I think Ben, especially if he gets traded, comes back on a mission. He's going to prove to everybody that he is the player that they thought he was.
Right.
So I think this is his year to prove himself. And if not, they said he's coming back to Philadelphia now. He has to
Mhm.
show teams that want to trade for him or
Oh
think
yeah.
about trading for him that he's tradable. So I think he really comes out on a mission. So I think Ben Simmons there is a great spot.
Yeah. And so for the people who are worried about what if he gets traded, what do I do? I actually think worst case scenario is what if he stays in Philadelphia? Like what you're getting out of Ben Simmons in Philadelphia. He's a good player defensively. He can sometimes let you down scoring. He's always a triple double threat. And the worst part is that things are going to be probably super awkward. The fans might be booing because they've all been jabbing him this whole offseason. He may have deteriorated some teammates or coaches relationships. But if he gets traded, some team is emptying their chest for Ben Simmons, right? So I mean, they're going to be clearing out players. They're going to be clearing out picks. If the team goes and gets him, they're going to use the heck out of him
Yep.
because they've built their team on him. Like they said, this is our guy. So I actually think, depending on where he goes, it could hurt. But if someone trades for him, he can't get worse because I mean, even in the Pacers, who sound like one of the best teams to potentially trade for, they talked about giving up Karis LeVert for him, which takes off a huge scoring, rebounding, assist guy and
Hmm.
gives Ben Simmons. So like I'm not worried where he goes, especially with the news of him coming back. That's what I was worried about was if he's gonna be sitting out. How many games does he miss? How many am I comfortable with losing when I draft him this high? Okay, so my next pick, which is pick 2 of the 4th round, I've
Yep.
got guys like Brandon Ingram, Zach LaVine, John Morant, Chris Middleton, and Jaylen Brown. Those are all kind of guys I like at this spot. And I know Brandon Ingram had an incredible season last year. He really outplayed his draft spot. He really showed that he could be like a superstar in this league. I don't know why I'm just not as comfortable with him this year.
Hmm.
Part of me thinks it could be Zion stepping forward. They did get rid of Lonzo, so maybe they use Brandon Ingram more in the playmaking, which would help him a lot.
Definitely agree.
But at this point, I think because I took Durant early, which is a risk in my opinion, not a bad risk, but a risk because, injury, age, how much they want to sit him out. I want to take a high floor guy, and I want to take a guy that has a higher ceiling when his oft injured superstar counterpart hurts his knees like he does every year. So I think I might go Chris Middleton here because Chris Middleton, he's an excellent player. He's always underrated because he's having to play behind Zion. I mean, he's having to play behind Giannis. But anytime Giannis sits out, which he does occasionally because his knees have hurt him every single year, he has to take a few maintenance games. Chris
Hmm.
Middleton goes off. So I like that upside. I like the floor of Middleton. Jaylen Brown was one I was really liking as well there. He was probably my second pick was Jaylen Brown. But the only reason I picked Middleton over Jaylen Brown is because we know that Jaylen hasn't received the vaccine as well. He's already having to quarantine right now because he tested positive. And like I said, anybody who gets exposed without the vaccine, they are told to sit out and quarantine for as long as the league tells them to. So we don't know how long that will be. Could be a couple days, could be a couple weeks, and I don't like that uncertainty.
Yep. Definitely agree. Definitely agree with all the points you made. Jaylen Brown had a really good, really big breakout season. First time All Star. I definitely look for him to keep that same energy going to this year. Like I said, the vaccine shot, that's a huge risk. It's his personal right to do whatever he wants to. But when it comes to fantasy, you have to choose what will be best for your team. So having that risk would be kind of, a little excessive. So Jaylen Brown there is not a bad spot, but a guy I'm surprised is still available that definitely is going to be second round, if not first round value this year, especially with his coach who likes to play people 45 minutes a game, is Julius Randle. Julius Randle had a great season last year, MVP-like season last year at that. So if I had really had to get, I mean, I think there's no shot I have to take Julius Randle here. I know that'll be my third power forward, but leaving him
Yeah.
on the board here would be terrible at that point. And I don't expect him to make it back to me, the computer.
Hmm.
You never know what they'll do.
Yeah.
But I think here has to take Julius Randle.
And he's got that center eligibility as well. So you've got Sabonis, you can play him at power forward, Zion at one of your util spots, and then Randall at your center. So you're at least able to stick all these guys in your starting lineup. Ah, darn it. I was really hoping there was someone there who's going to make it all the way back a little bit further down the board. After you went Siakam, Ja, who I personally love, Chris Paul, Drummond, McCollum, and Van Vliet. That's who I was kind of hoping to make it all the way back to me.
Yep.
He's ranked a little bit lower in Sleeper than he is on some of the other platforms. Kyle Lowry's out of the way. He showed a lot of potential with both rebounds and assists. Like he should be the main ball handler. I was kind of hoping he'd make it back to me.
And that's fair. That's very fair. So let's see. Ja Morant, really good pick. Really good pick in the fourth round, ninth pick. Surprised he dropped that low, but with sleeper, they got a lot of reaches for. So it seems like this sleeper ranking might be based a lot on last year's rankings, maybe. Because we see Andre Drummond, who's going to be the backup to Embiid this year, going in the fifth round at the first pick.
Yeah, I don't know
Um,
about that either. I
yeah,
mean,
it could be going off the assumption that Embiid sits a lot this year, and if Embiid sits a
yeah.
lot and puts Drummond at the primary center, I think that's a huge upgrade. I think it's a huge pick.
I mean,
But
Embiid, they've talked about. He says he's full go after his rehab this offseason, but the fact that he's having to tell people after his rehab maybe puts a little bit of doubt in their minds.
yeah, and I think it's you have no choice but to doubt it. This is Embiid's fifth year now, so
Yeah.
fifth sixth year. So you know every single year seems to be something. If not, I don't think he's had a 75 plus season. So you always expect something to come up. But he's on my normal fantasy team, so let's hope that doesn't happen. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so then it's followed by CJ McCollum and Van Vliet. Van Vliet, I think, is a steal there. CJ McCollum, he was having a really good breakout season last year before I think he broke his foot. Um, Not a bad pick. I still think there's better options. Michael Porter Jr. He's been on a tear going from last year. I think he'll continue that this year. Um, Another person I'm surprised is ranked really low. Dejounte Murray. Dejounte Murray. They ended up
Yeah.
losing, LaMarcus Aldridge mid-year, as well as DeMar DeRozan. So that's a lot of touches. And I feel like next up has to be Dejounte Murray. I mean, him, Derek White, and then Keldon Johnson. I know they picked up Thaddeus Young, but I still see Dejounte Murray at the top of usage for the Spurs. And he was
Right.
already a triple double threat last year, as well as a real highly used defensive guy as well. So think him here is a steal. But honestly, I have somebody who I picked up last year on my team who served me really well. He's a young guy. He'll be his second year. But I see him really he have another huge step this year. If I can find him, I just saw him a second ago. Ranks really low, surprisingly.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Definitely know who I'm talking about. It's my man LaMelo Ball.
Let's say he's all the way down there at 74 for some reason.
Yeah.
I drafted him in our league at pick four. I mean, my third round pick last at 3-9. So I obviously believe in him as well. Right after Lamelo goes Capella, and I know how good Capella is when he plays. I
Mm.
know that Trey Young dishes the ball to his big men better than most people in the league. But when you see the report of a PRP injection into your Achilles, I am just terrified of that. I mean, he may prove me wrong, come out and play this whole season, be an Iron Man, but I don't know how many injury reports I've seen positive after someone gets a PRP injection. To me, that always sounds like they are just trying their best to avoid surgery. And you never really see a lot of positive effects. Like, oh, he got his PRP injection, he was healed. It's always like, they gave it to him, and now it's just a matter of time. So I'm terrified of drafting Clint Capella. I'm staying away from him for a while. I know he's got lots of upside here at 5, the 5th round, but I'm terrified of him. DeRozan goes after that, moving on to Chicago. It'll be interesting to see how much he is used with such a star-studded team. Kyle Lowry down in Miami should be still good. Michael Porter Jr. after that at the 8th pick in the 5th round. With Jamal Murray out, like you said, should have a lot of the workload. You just kind of wonder after he comes back, does your pick come to bite you? Did they keep using him? He was just so inconsistent. If he comes out, he has clearly potential to be, I think, a third, second round pick if they play him like they should. If they give him the ball, let a lot of the scoring go through him. I know Jokic is an absolute superstar, but Michael Porter Jr. has that potential. He could be one of the best young players in this league. So I know I'm fine with that 5th round or earlier, maybe even 4th round, taking that shot at Michael Porter Jr. and seeing if it returns on investment. It really could be something special. So now I'm looking here at some of the guys it's got left. Like you said, Dejounte Murray is on my list because I like the statistical triple-double threat.
Yep.
Especially in our league, we actually give a small bonus for double-doubles and triple-doubles. So most nights he's threatening those extra points. Christian Wood is one of those I'm considering. He was just barely. I think I saw something that was funny. It said like if he had just gotten 12 more rebounds on the season, he averaged a double double. Like he was that close.
Mhm.
So almost a double double machine with a lot of blocks. So it's really between those two. They've got Drew Holiday and Jaren Jackson up here, but I'm not sold on them at this point. No, Drew Holiday is a solid player. If you need a floor guy, which is why I took Middleton earlier, and you've taken a lot of upside and you want a floor, Drew Holiday is one of the best floor players I think you can get. He is every year he gets older, and with them just winning a championship, I'm afraid to see how much rest they give these guys. And I'm really torn here, but I'm going to play the game,
Mhm.
and I'm going to take Christian Wood because he's ranked higher.
Ooh. Okay.
And
Okay.
I think Dejounte Murray will be there for me in the 6th round. And I was right.
Yep.
So Tobias Harris went after that, and Drew Holiday. And now, at this point, I am not letting Dejounte Murray go any further. It's just ridiculous to me that he's this far down. So
Yeah.
now,
Dejounte Murray, I think, hands down, top 30 player for sure.
really easily.
Fantasy top 30 player.
Oh, yeah, because
There's
DeRozan's usage was absurd last season. And the fact that he's out there now without him, it's all young guys. And so someone's taking it over. And he already showed leadership last year.
Definitely agree. So coming next, we had Jaren Jackson. I think Jaren Jackson's now. We've talked about this. He's at a make or break point. Memphis is getting ready to go on to start their. They're contending. They're contending time. So Jaren Jackson has to prove to Memphis that he's the player they thought he was when they drafted him. So
Mhm.
I think Jaren Jackson comes out this year
He is
and
playing for a contract this year. They
playing
have
for a
not come to
contract.
terms on a contract. They were rumoring something around 100 million, which is not max. So he is playing for a contract.
Yep. So it'll be interesting to see what he does this year. He provides you scoring, he provides you blocks, but he's not a great rebounder. He has, he shows hints every now and then, but not a great rebounder. So it'll be interesting to see what he does this year. Next up, we had Miles Turner. Miles Turner at the 6th round, 4th pick.
He's got to be one of those floor guys. He gives scoring. He's decent on rebounding and good on block shots. So good floor, I would say. Um, but you got to be worried with how much they've talked about potentially trading him because they don't like the fit with him and Sabonis.
Yeah, I definitely, me personally, I don't like that pick at all there. I think there's a lot of better options. Yusuf Nurkic,
Oh yeah,
they lost Cantor. Their only backup center, I believe, is Larry Nance. I know they have Harry Giles. They might try to rotate some of them in as uh, backup, but Nurkic. We have Jonas Valanciunas, who he might not get as much playing time as he did on Memphis. Now that he's on the New Orleans, but still think is a far better option than Miles Turner there at that spot. Montrezl Harrell, another interesting one, as well as Rashaan Holmes. So I think those other center options there that I wouldn't take Miles Turner early. I think Miles Turner is going to be top 100, maybe a little bit higher than that. So Then followed by Kimball Walker. Kimball Walker, similar new team. A lot of people counting him out now. There's been a lot of years now where they're saying Kimball Walker is just injury prone, hasn't producing like they thought he would in Boston. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think he comes out this year that he's already joked around with Thibodeau that he will be playing back to backs. He'll be playing.
And that's
So
reassuring.
yeah, not having to worry about injury. At least load management will be good. Not gonna say injury because he has
Yeah,
been injury prone. So
yeah. He's
you
still got
know
the same knees, but
he
we'll
get
find
yeah.
out.
Yeah, when you got knees like me, definitely not a good thing in NBA. So,
Oh man. And also,
yeah.
can I say something real quick before you
Oh
make
yeah,
your pick?
go ahead, go
At
ahead.
this point in the draft, it's okay to start scrolling a little bit. Like just because someone's ranked up there at rank 50 doesn't mean you have to take them. Like this is where you can start feeling comfortable. I'm not saying scroll into the hundreds yet, but look down the next 20 guys. You can feel comfortable reaching a little bit here if you really believe in a player further down. Don't just believe the expert rankings because that's what they say.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. Because I mean, we saw that in ESPN leagues, and this is actually the player I'm about to take now. 'Cause I think he's gonna be really
Oh,
solid
don't
this
do it.
year.
Oh,
But
don't do
I
it.
have to, I have to. But in
Please don't.
ESPN leagues, this player who I'm about to take was ranked in the 100s, which is very surprising. Sleeper
Oh.
has him ranked, a lot lower, which is good. But he was, I think, ranked 140 in ESPN, and that's just absurd. Kevin Porter Jr. last year, when John Wall went out, showed that he could potentially be an All-Star one day. I mean, he had a 50-point game. He was giving you triple doubles. This man was just showing out. So I think him ranked in this like 83. It's just absurd. I think
Yeah.
he comes back even better. He's proven to the Cavs that he wasn't the distraction they said he was. So it'll be interesting to
He's one
see.
of those sleepers both of us have liked. Me and you fought over him in our draft. I managed to get him. I think I picked him at this pick coming up for me, the seventh round pick. Yeah, he
Yep.
was ranked all the way down the 130s, but I took him now because I truly believe he could be a dynamic player for them. All they went and got was a rookie who who should be very inconsistent, and that should mean that the ball still stays in his hands more.
Yeah, and I think that's where we clash. I'm a huge Jalen Green fan. I believe he should have been the number one pick. I believe if he went to college, he would have been the number one pick. But I think honestly, it's honestly hit or miss. I think taking Kevin Porter Jr. this high is a good pick, but honestly, it wouldn't be as bad to take Jalen Green. They could both have similar
It's
seasons.
possible,
Honestly,
yeah.
we've noticed from preseason how good Jalen Green's been. So who
Yeah.
knows, where how he'll end up. So it'll be interesting. As well as John Wall. John Wall hasn't been moved yet. I think they said they'll come to an agreement on trading him, but he hasn't been moved yet. I haven't been watching Houston much in the preseason. I don't think John Wall's been playing.
No, I don't think they're playing him right now, so
Yeah. So
you
it'll
can
be
take the
interesting
chance depending on where you think he's going to go,
for
but I don't
sure.
think they're playing him at Houston. His contract is massive. It's the biggest problem.
Exactly. So not a lot of teams gonna want that. So Houston, they might have to buy him out if they really want to move him. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So next up, we had Buddy. Oh, wait, Valanciunas. I think solid pick. I think we kind of see different with Valanciunas. I think Valanciunas is going to be still a solid piece this year. I think he's one of those guys who needs 20, 25 minutes
Yeah.
to get through.
And I mean, I have to think that he's not going to be as good this year because that's the only way I can justify the trade. Like, I have to, as a Memphis fan, believe that I have to hope Valanciunas isn't a star. If he comes out and just dominates again, I'm just going to be so sad that we traded him away.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he operates with Zion down there. Zion also not a great rebounder,
Right.
so we'll see. Next up, Robert Covington, the category league's prime player, picked as the sixth round, ninth pick. We're in a points league, so it's interesting to
Yeah,
see
this is a
him,
points league.
yeah, go this early. You know, I think he was a solid player last year. He floated in and out of our waivers. I don't think anyone ever rostered him on a team too long, so it's
Yeah,
interesting to see him go there.
he'll be okay. He just has no upside. Like at this point in his career, he knows what he is,
Yep.
and so it's not. You may get an explosion game every now and then if he just decides he's on fire because Melo's not there, so he could be taking more threes. But other than that, I mean, there's not a lot of upside.
Definitely agree. Andrew Wiggins just got vaccinated,
Yep,
so he
yep,
doesn't have
that's a
that
good thing.
restriction anymore on him because California was one of California, New York, of course, if y'all didn't already know, are saying that they're not allowing activities if you're not vaccinated. So Wiggins getting that vaccine and clears him of that. So not a bad pick. Klay Thompson is slated to come back this year. That'll definitely take some usage away from him. They picked up Otto Porter Jr., a 3-D guy. That takes away a little bit of shots, as well as Jordan Poole coming to his own. So it'll be interesting to see where Wiggins fits. I still see him as the second option on the Warriors behind Steph Curry.
Hmm.
But if Jordan Poole continues on the rise like he has been, it'll be interesting to see what
Jordan Poole has
happens.
looked good preseason so far. I know, like I said, it's preseason, but he's looked confident. He's taking shots. He's running a lot of the offense. Looks good.
Definitely agree. Most definitely agree. So followed by Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield in Sacramento. Three guy. You know what you're getting out of him.
Hmm.
3 pointers. He might have he's won a little bit of stint, getting rebounds and assists, but pretty much a 3 pointer guy. Draymond. Draymond, I think a great pick for the 7th round. He's an all around guy. He's not gonna give you 20, 30 points, but when it comes to rebounds assists, he always has, and he's a great defensive player as well. Real gritty. I like that pick there.
And
Kelly Oubre, new team Charlotte. A lot of scores on that team. It'll be interesting. I think he'll be a 3-and-D guy as well in Charlotte.
yeah, he
They
could
lost
be
a
good.
bunch.
He showed a lot in Phoenix.
He did show a lot in Phoenix. He did. So it'll be interesting. Golden State, he had a really bad slump. So hopefully he's looking to, come back into his own when he's now
Hmm.
back on Charlotte. They have a young team. They're trying to compete, trying to have fun. So it'll be interesting to see. So now back to me. So currently, I have shooting guard, point guard, power forward, and a shooting guard. So I have a couple at center. So I'm kind of filled. So I think here I would really look to take another guard here, guard or small forward. Honestly, had no small forward spot. Rashaan Holmes is listed as a small forward right here, which in most leagues, well, I'm about
Yeah,
to say almost
he's
all
usually
leagues, he's
just a
not.
center,
Yeah,
power
he
forward
was
center.
power forward center. So yeah, I'm a draft. 'Cause I know most people will be playing out of ESPN and Yahoo, and I don't think Rashawn Holmes is a small forward there. So I'm gonna play as if he's not. So let me sort by small forwards here. So Jeremy Grant, I think really good pick. Jeremy Grant is one of the sole players on Detroit. He signed a massive contract. Last year he showed a lot of promise until injury. Um, Risk with him is Detroit's not going to be a good team. They'll have to prove me wrong for that. So load management's going to be a big deal. So honestly, who I would want to take here would be my guy who's really been showing a lot of promise. Would be Anthony Edwards.
Oh, that gummit! I
Anthony
was
Edwards.
sure he was gonna make it back to me. That gummit!
Anthony Edwards showed me last year that
Ah,
that he was a real deal scorer. He was the #1 pick, arguably the rookie of the year. They gave it to LaMelo even after injury. So I think he comes back this year even stronger for his sophomore season. The biggest issue now people are talking about is Malik Beasley. Malik Beasley returned another
yeah.
scorer, taking away his usage. But honestly, I don't think that affects Anthony Edwards too much. He showed a lot of promise of preseason, so it's just to see.
You don't
So
spend the #1 pick on a guy and then give his usage to Malik Beasley. I know
it's
Malik Beasley's a great player, um, but they're going to find a role for Malik Beasley. They're not going to find a role for the #1 overall pick. And you know that I agree with that. I took Anthony Edwards and Kevin Porter Jr. in our actual draft, so I believe in that pick. And then my backup pick was taken right after you, so thanks Team Five, Yusuf Nurkic, who I believe this year coming back, he's completely ready to go from injury. They traded away Ennis Cantor, who was too good on the boards and on defense to not play. I mean, not trade. They got he's out. He's out of town. So this is Nurkic's center position. Like he should be the numbers you saw 2 years ago, where he was a big time scorer, big time part of the offense. Dame loves him. I think that's an easy pick there. So I was prepared to go Anthony Edwards, Yusuf Nurkic. Both of those guys are gone, so thank you everybody. So now here at this pick, I need a shooting guard, and then my two utility spots are open.
yep.
I think the guy at the top of the board is actually the one I like here. Malcolm Brogdon's up here at the top.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
I know he's very injury prone. I know people have referred to him as like the glass cannon because
Oh
when
yeah.
he's in, he
Yeah.
scores. His assists are great. His steals are always enough to keep you afloat. Um, they love to let him run the offense. The and I don't have Sabonis in this league. That affected my ESPN draft because I had Sabonis. I didn't want to take two Pacers too quickly,
Hmm.
and especially just with the Pacers and both the T-Wolves, I have that kind of lingering in my head of those are the teams Ben Simmons could be traded to.
Yep.
But um, so I still like Malcolm Brogdon here at this point because I need a shooting guard. Montrezl Harrell was one I was thinking. I liked him there. Tyler Hero went here. It's a little early for my taste. They seem to be playing in the six man, which could be good. Jordan Clarkson showed value out of the six man. Uh, so we'll see about Tyler Hero there. But then here, because I only have one center, I don't think any of my other guys are center eligible. I think Christian Wood actually is, but I will be probably playing him more as a power forward because I don't have anybody else eligible there. At this point, I think I like Jared Allen. A lot of the guys after him don't really seem to have the guaranteed playing time. I know that they just drafted um, Evan Mobley. So I mean that doesn't help, but I like Jared Allen's defensive upside here.
Oh yeah, for sure. The Cavs right now are in a. I think they're trying to figure out what they're doing themselves. They have a lot of forwards and centers. They just signed Jared Allen to a massive deal, massive contract, as well as signing marketing. So a pretty hefty deal, especially after a lackluster season he had with the Bulls last year. So I think Jared Allen will still be solid. I had Jared Allen on my fantasy team a lot last year, and I loved him. The blocks, the rebounds, and 10, 15, 20 points a game. So it was really solid. I think.
And the contract, like you said, is what's keeping me in on Jared Allen. Like
Mhm.
surely you don't give the guy that kind of contract and then trade for marketing and then draft Mobley just to push him out of playing time.
Exactly. The player I'm surprised you didn't talk about when you picked Brogdon when you needed a shooting guard was the guy who just went, Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, the two-headed monster. They call him Sexlin at
One of
Cleveland.
the better
Yeah,
nicknames in the NBA.
right. Yeah, I'm surprised they have. I'm surprised Garland hasn't won. I'm surprised Colin Sexton went eighth round. Colin Sexton showed last year that this man is it was his third season. That shows that he still has a lot of promise going for the future. So seeing him go this late is really surprising. I see Colin Sexton in his top 50, um, at least, especially if he stays healthy. So seeing him go this late was definitely a steal for Team 8. Rashaan Holmes, I think another steal. I think Rashaan Holmes. The problem is, it's Sacramento. That's the only problem.
Yeah,
Sacramento, you don't know what you're getting out of them. It's they have Whiteside, they have Bagley, but they've been playing Bagley and Holmes together, so they haven't really been clashing too much. So it'll be interesting to see.
and I agree with Colin Sexton there. I mean, I know he's like every year he's getting better. He's young. He should be improving. I just like what I've seen out of Brogdon, but I definitely do not knock anybody for taking Colin Sexton there.
Most definitely, most definitely. So then followed Aaron Gordon, LaMarcus Aldridge, two picks that I wouldn't have taken there, but Aaron Gordon signed a big contract, so this could be his proven year. But with Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., and Jokic, I think that's I really don't like fourth options in fantasy, especially in a 10 team,
Yeah,
unless you can do something besides score. Um, but who knows? Aaron Gordon might prove me wrong this year. Now it's back to my pick. So I'm torn. I have two players I'm really interested in. The first being OG Anunoby. OG
yeah,
Anunoby, I
yeah,
think it's gonna be another really solid play this year. He's been shown a lot of promise, especially in preseason. He's been seeing get better every year, and now they don't have Siakam till November at least, as well as no Kyle Lowry anymore. So I think OG Anunoby here is a steal at the eighth round, as well as Jeremy Grant.
okay.
So my pick, I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with OG Anunoby here. Okay, Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray again, still injured. He's questionable to miss this whole season. I read today, so interesting pick there. But again, they're going off of our slot, I'm assuming, and him coming back and making a difference.
Mhm.
Marcus Smart, Mitchell Robinson. Um, uh, I don't like it as much. Miles Bridges. That was going to be my next pick.
Was
Miles
it?
Bridges, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
he's
He's got upside this year.
looking really good. Last year, I mean, last night, he had 22 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. He's just showing how versatile he is on Charlotte. So
Yep. Him and LaMelo have great chemistry. It looks like LaMelo loves throwing it up. He loves dunking it. So,
Exactly. And losing Devontae Graham on Charlotte now,
oh
it
yeah.
just makes more usage for him. They picked up Kelly Oubre, but we'll see how that plays out.
Hmm.
Whiteside Graham. Um, I don't like it as much. Whiteside, I think, is too questionable. I don't think I don't see him being too much of great use. I see him behind Gobert, but I mean, they like Gobert, so
He showed at Portland that he only needs 20 minutes to make a respectable stat line. Nothing
yep,
that's going to win you the week, but nothing that's going to, give you a zero. So I could see why maybe, but you're really kind of hoping that they don't play Gobert as much as they have been to take Whiteside there.
exactly. So now my pick's back up. So now we're at the point where in the draft where you can start, picking players who might not. You're looking to have a breakout season, I would say.
Right. Yeah.
So in my choice, I think the two people I would be looking at here is I know I already have Kevin Porter Jr., but Jalen Green I think has really solid, as well
I'm
as
gonna scroll all the way down to Jalen Green right now.
right Jalen Green, really solid option, and I forgot what my other guy is, Spencer Dinwiddie. Spencer Dinwiddie,
Oh yeah.
yeah, solid option on Washington. He had a real bad injury last year, missed the season, but I think Spencer Dinwiddie here will be really good, mainly because it'll just be him and Bradley Beal, and then with the additions of Kuzma and Montrezl Harrell. But with Beal, who knows? With the Wizards wanting to load manage him, whatever. I think that opens up for Dinwiddie to really show himself. Um, so I think it's a solid pick.
Yeah, and he should have plenty of opportunity this year. Some of the guys you mentioned is who I'm looking at. They've got like Kevin Love, John Wall, Oladipo, marking in here. That's our top four remaining. I am not drafting any of those four anywhere this year. I just I don't know where John Wall's going. I don't know how they're planning on using him. Kevin Love is just he seems to be heading towards retirement every year. They
Yeah,
keep drafting players in his position, trying to squeeze him out. So I don't like it. Marketing seems to be playing a backup role. Karis LeVert's someone you could think about taking a chance on here. Not a chance in whether or not he'll be good, but one, his stress fracture in his back. As long as that's not a big deal, he comes back healthy. Should be a fine player. He was mentioned in the Philadelphia trade package, though. If that works out, what's his role in Philly?
yep.
So it just kind of depends what they do with him from there. So I'm not opposed to taking him. I'm probably going to pass right now since I just drafted Malcolm Brogdon.
Hmm.
And I think I am taking the guy that you've been talking about. I'm going to try, I'm shooting for the stars here, Jalen Green. Like, I want someone who's got that top potential. Like, at this point, if he plays outstanding basketball, then my team is immensely better than if I was to take some floor player. And at this
Yep.
point, these are guys I'm okay with dropping. Like, you got to you're drafting at this point. These are not the cornerstones of your team. You take your shots. You be willing to move on though. Like if he comes out and struggles, I'll probably move on. But he's someone to keep an eye on because you've seen rookies always get better at the end of the season. So it's one of those that might require patience.
I definitely agree. And one thing, so Sleeper has our draft going out to 150 picks, or is that 159 picks?
Yeah,
So
100. Yeah, 150.
yeah, so I think we're going to stop after this round.
Yeah,
Because I mean, at this point, we see a lot of reaching already happening. I mean, we have Tim Hardaway Jr. going already, Klay Thompson. So, um, yeah, I think it'll be a good point to stop after this round.
yeah. We
I
can
think,
stop after this round. I'll say we'll mention some of our like late round targets. I know that after 10th round, people are still drafting for bench. So we'll go through this round. I'll make my pick. We'll talk about some of our favorite guys to go reach for
mhm,
at this point in the draft that could really give you that ceiling,
yep,
that chance at a championship. Like these are the guys who, if they don't hit, you drop them. If they hit, it's really talking about winning a season. So one of the guys I'm looking at, Dylan Brooks is down here. I'm not really looking at him in this pick because they just came out with a report that he's going to be out for a few weeks, and they keep drafting more guys. They have more players. He was solid. I think he's a good floor guy, but I'm not taking him because of the ceiling. The person I'm going to go for because of ceiling, and I know I drafted Deontay Murray, but I like Keldon Johnson. There's a chance he comes in, takes on a
really good
large
pick.
scoring role, good assists. I mean, good rebounds, good defensive numbers. So I think I'm gonna go Keldon Johnson here.
Not that I think he falls under the same criteria as Dejounte Murray. They're looking for someone to fill the void of DeMar DeRozan this year, so
Right.
he has ample opportunity to really pick it up. So next up we had John Wall go, he's kind of in limbo right now. I think he could be a really solid piece wherever he goes, but currently doesn't have a for certain team. T.J. Warren is still out indefinitely after a report I saw today. He's getting evaluated on his foot, I think, in 4 weeks. So it's a risky pick there. Again, we're just reaching here, so solid if he comes back, but we just had no time frame on when that would happen.
Hmm.
Mikhail Bridges, really good categories player, not as good of a points player. He can have really solid games. There's also games he just disappears.
Yeah.
So, oh, there, you pay for what you get there. So
Yeah. And I think he's one of those floor guys too. Like if you've taken just a ton of shots at the beginning of your draft, like your first 8 picks, all guys who could flop, it's not always a bad thing to pick guys who have a solid baseline towards the end of the draft, but my favorite thing is to pick guys I feel very confident in the beginning and then just starting like picks 9, maybe even 8, 8, 9, 10. I just start taking shots. I scroll down. I want to find the guy who's got superstar potential, whose team has given him the opportunity, things like that.
definitely agree. The next up we had Laurie Marketing, okay, a guy who signed. Looking for another star, looking for a fresh start in Cleveland. I think a guy who he's looking to make a difference. He's been talked bad about, so I think he's going to look to prove himself this year. I think he'll be solid. It'll be interesting to see how Cleveland's going to play all these guys. Evan Mobley, Marketing, Jared Allen. So I guess he'll be, the person who shows the most promise, gets the spot. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see them all fight for it. So 10th round, 7th pick, my last pick. Um, there's a few options left on the board that I'll go ahead and mention now. They're kind of interesting. Steven Adams. Steven Adams traded for Jonas Valanciunas this summer. I think Steven Adams, he's been showing a lot of promise in the preseason. Kind of a floor guy, like you've been mentioning. I think he'll give you a double double just about any night. 10 points, 10 rebounds. Not You're not going to get a monster performance every night out of him, but you'll know what you're getting out of him once you pick him. Harrison Barnes showed a lot of promise last year. He played, I think, played the best last year than he has in a few years, in my opinion. So I'll look for him to continue that this year. Derek White. I definitely think Derek White should have been taken by now.
Yeah.
Kind of falls in the same category as Keldon Johnson, Dejounte Murray. He's looking for. They're looking for who's going to be that next guy up. Popovich loves Derek White.
He
He's
does.
just
He really loves Derek White.
he just struggles with injury. That's the
Yep.
only problem. It seems like every year it's his toes, his armpit, it's his tongue, it's something every year. So,
Armpit.
so hopefully he'll come back in the zone this year. Bogdanovich on the Hawks. I
Yep.
know that he showed a lot of promise towards the end of the year, especially with Trey Young missing some games. He started playing 40 plus minutes towards the end of the season. Gave a real good triple double threat at the end of the season. So it'll be interesting to see if that carries over to this season. And then lastly, Wendell Carter Jr. Wendell Carter Jr. Him and Mo Bamba are kind of fighting for that center spot right now. Hell, even I think last game they played them both at the same time. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with the big man role down there. If they're going to go twin towers or have them offsetting each other. So those are 5 targets I still have on the board currently. But for my pick, I think I'm gonna have to go with this guy. I mean, he should not be on the board right now. He should be long gone. Derek White should be taken, so I'll definitely have to take him there.
Yep. I agree with that. And so like we talked about, and so you'll hear this in like when you hear people talk about fantasy football and stuff. When you're calling your shot on a team that suddenly has a void in playmaking, we're not saying Derek White, Keldon Johnson, Deontay Murray are all going to be studs. We're saying to call your shot. Like when you look at these guys, someone has to be the guy. And there's room in fantasy basketball for 2 guys to be the guy. It's hard for 3. Usually they have to be all superstars, like the Lakers, the Nets, those kind of superstars. But there's a chance. But taking your shot in the 10th round on Derek White should be low risk, no risk, high reward. And then some of the guys who went after you, or some of the people that were on my watch list, Karis LeVert, at this point, I would feel comfortable taking the shot on him starting in. You could convince me 7th round. I'm not doing it. I feel more comfortable 8th, 9th, 10th. I'm okay with taking that shot on him. He should be a monster if he gets to play, if he's given the opportunity. Wendell Carter was taken, and like you said, I was all in on Wendell Carter being a sleeper center until I started watching the preseason. And not that I'm saying he didn't play bad, but Mo Bamba, oh my gosh,
Been
like
a monster.
holy cow, like where was this? I know part of it is not his fault.
Yeah,
Like the
he struggled with COVID last year as well. I think that
yeah,
kind of
but then
carried
the
the whole
Magic
season.
drafted him behind Vucevic. Like they went out and got one of the best centers in the draft behind Vucevic and didn't do anything with Vucevic. So I felt
Hmm.
bad for Bamba. Like they finally moved on from Vucevic. Now they did go get Wendell Carter in the trade, which is kind of saying like they don't trust him,
Hmm.
but he's showing that he may have earned that draft pick spot.
Oh yeah.
So he's one of those guys later in the draft I'm really looking at. So I'll go over just kind of the guys that didn't get drafted that I'm all about if you get them. This guy I wouldn't say I'm all about. I put him on the list because everybody's talking about him. He's on everybody's sleeper list.
Hmm.
So I at least want to talk about him. Robert Williams is
Oh
out
yeah.
there.
Whew.
Power forward center for the Celtics. He's got all kinds of shot blocking ability. He's a great rebounder, decent scorer. You know,
Hmm.
he doesn't really get a lot of the looks because Tatum and Jaylen Brown are there, but he has that upside. If they give him consistent minutes, if they don't let someone else take his spot, if they use him, 20 or 28, 32 minutes a game, I believe he's a great center to have this late. He should have plenty of blocks. He averaged 2.1 blocks per game on 24 minutes per game.
Ooh.
So I mean, just up it 8 more minutes. That you could be talking about a 3 block a game guy. That's awesome to have. Another guy, Chris Boucher. Big problem with him is he just underwent surgery. It wasn't a serious surgery, but he's still going to be out quite a few weeks. And then for some reason, Nick Nurse just did not want to play him last year. He didn't trust him on defense, or he thought he was a liability. So you're taking the hope that you know that if he gets out there and plays just like Robert Williams, he could be a monster. But will they let him play? So I like him as a shot later in the round. Jakob Pertl from the Spurs again. He showed a double-double threat at the end of the season. Someone's going to
Yep.
be filling that void. Cam Reddish is a guy I want to keep my eye on.
Interesting.
Uh, Bogdanovic showed that he could be that secondary scorer to Trey Young last year, and he filled in great for Trey Young because Trey Young was out. But Cam Reddish is a guy with a high draft pedigree, like someone you want to get into the game. He showed a little bit improvements, He's always been a good defensive player. If his offense comes around, if he starts hitting those shots, I can see him really getting into that playing time. The problem is they've got Bogdanovic, Kevin Herter, and
Gallinari on top of that.
Gallinari, and even DeAndre Hunter, all competing for those similar minutes. So he's someone that you can keep an eye on. That late Mo Bamba's on there, and then my last guy is someone I took in our draft as the very last pick, Terrence Mann. He looked great at the end of the season last year when Kawhi was out. He
Just signed a
really helped build.
massive extension.
Yeah, he
Well, not
signed. Yeah,
massive,
they paid
but
him
22 mil, 2 years.
for
So,
him for
yeah.
what for how much playing time he got last year. That's a massive extension. He played well in the playoffs, helped them a lot. That was very important. So Terrence Mann's a guy with as long as Kawhi's out, they haven't been starting him a ton in the preseason, which doesn't give you the most confidence. But I think in the last game they decided to start him. This most recent game they've decided to start him.
Yep.
So they're going to take a chance and look. And one of the things we haven't really mentioned in points league since you're playing every night, schedule is important. And so you want guys who play on off nights, and sometimes it's these West Coast teams who play on off nights, these big name teams that play on off nights because they want everybody to get to watch those games. So people on the Lakers, Nets, Trailblazers,
Yep.
and Clippers a lot of times get to play on off nights. So I drafted Terrence Mann in our league. He's someone to keep an eye on later in the list.
Yep. And we're already seeing that, open tonight. There's 2 games. There's, Lakers, Warriors, and then Nets, Milwaukee. So, I mean, it's already showing. Then on the next day, you have kind of the rest of the teams playing. And it kind of repeats that same thing. So, yeah, definitely something to look at. I wanted to make another point, like what you said. When Tyler was talking about taking your shot, I definitely agree. We're not telling you, these are going to be the guys. It's just, we're just giving you an option on who we're thinking rankings are going to be the next guy. We talked about DeJounte Murray, we talked about Derek White, we talked about Keldon Johnson. That's not to say couldn't be Lonnie Walker that takes that huge step up.
Yeah.
They brought in Thaddeus Young. We're just giving you the options of who we think might who we think has the best chance, to be that player this year. So same thing with Orlando. They have Wendell Carter and Mo Bamba. We didn't talk much about the guards. They have Markel Fultz coming back. He was having a breakout season last year. They have Cole Anthony. So just lots of players that you can choose from. But we just named who we think would be the best option.
Yeah, I think the last two guys I forgot to talk about, Jonathan Isaac on that Magic team.
Oh yeah,
great defensive player. Still coming back from injury, not vaccinated. A lot of question marks there. Could be great player. And then Mikhail Alexander Walker on the Pelicans.
Oh yeah.
He when he gets in, he shoots. He's not afraid to shoot the ball. He's gonna if he gives him 10 minutes, he's gonna take 20 shots.
Yep.
So has that chance. I kind of like rolling the dice on him. But anybody else that you've just really stood out to you later down this list?
My last one is Darius Garland. Darius Garland, the biggest thing that I like about the Cavs and Darius Garland and Colin Sexton that I've seen in previous years, they are not afraid to play him. And I think that goes hand in hand why they're out so much and why they're hurt. There was a stint where Darius Garland and Colin Sexton, with a losing record, were playing 40, 41 minutes a game.
Oh yeah.
I mean, their guard depth just isn't there. They don't have many guards behind them that they trust. There's questions on whether they'll be able to, be on the same team in the future if they want to really compete. But they all like each other. They're all friendly around each other. So Darius Garland still being available, I think, is absurd. I think Darius Garland is a top 60 player. I mean, he puts up triple double type numbers. So
yeah, I agree with you there. I can't believe I missed him on that. Sorry about that. Forgive me, Darius Garland. You deserve way more respect than that. So, like we said, this is off of Sleeper's ADP. You will see different rankings depending on which platform you're drafting on. So my advice is, do your homework, find the players you love, but then play the game of figuring out where they're going to be drafted. So, if you think Domantas Sabonis is going to be the number one overall player in fantasy, don't draft him at number one. But go ahead and, I felt comfortable reaching for him at 12. I don't think it's a reach. ESPN is telling me it's a reach. But, find those guys, find a good spots to target them, and call your shots. And that's the best way to have fun in fantasy basketball. When you hit your shot on a fantasy basketball player in a points league, it's so much fun because, like, every night you get to watch them put up those points, and you never have to worry about, well, this category's out. It doesn't matter if I play this player because they're only getting me stats in the categories that I'm already losing. This is like every night you get to plug them in, you get to watch their points go up. It's just fun. It feels like you're playing DFS every night, and you get to do it against your best friends. So, hope you've enjoyed this. We absolutely love talking about fantasy basketball. We really have enjoyed points leagues, and so we love getting to do this draft. Hopefully, y'all enjoyed it. Hopefully, you learned, agreed with some of our insights. Maybe you disagree. We'd love to hear your thoughts on some of these players.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Definitely provide us feedback. Let us know how we did. If you agree, disagree, let us know. We're definitely gonna try to come out with a lot more content in fantasy basketball. Maybe like some of our sleeper picks that we kind of discussed, go more in depth on the sleeper picks. Maybe some of our do not draft picks. So we'll definitely try to come out with some more footage, different things. So yeah, definitely let us know how everything worked out. And Tyler, I look forward to beating you again this year.
Oh gosh. Oh my goodness. So that's the best part about fantasy basketball is that one of these days I will shut Dotun up and it'll
One
be
of these
so
days.
nice. I will not stop bragging. It'll be years of gloating. I may even retire whenever it happens, but Dotun does have a reign of terror. He did get put out last year by our nemesis, but
That's a
we're not even
story
going to
for another
mention his name
day.
here on the podcast. Not even going to mention his name, but yeah, I'm hoping that we get to have a little bit more content before the season starts. I'd love to have like an episode of maybe telling you guys who like our guys we'd be willing to wage our bets on for the season, and then we kind of give you some updates on the season on how they're doing and how the players we're calling our shots on are doing. So, anyways, that's it. I think from me and Dotun, the fantasy engineers, two engineers who take time out of their thrilling lives to get to talk fantasy basketball. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks, and hope to get to see y'all again soon.